So my family is a family of musicians, and two of my brothers in particular, very proud of their guitar abilities. They're at a very professional level. And my youngest brother, my heart is just filled with joy whenever I see him play perfectly Michael Jackson's Beat It, the guitar solo. If you know what that is, it's amazing to see him just wail on that. But my brother, Michael, my youngest brother, who is an amazing guitarist, he also went through a phase. Has anyone here ever been through a phase before? Okay. Any of your kids or grandkids ever been through a phase before? Any of your parents ever been through a phase before? We all go through phases. And he was a part of a screamo band for a little while. Screamo bands, they don't sing, they scream. And it's just kind of a weird experience. So my brother practiced in our basement. And so the lead screamer, came over, and he was one of the most delightful young chaps you'll ever meet. He came over, he knocked on the door very politely, and he said, "Hello, Davies. I'm here to practice with your brother, Michael." And we're like, "Oh, well, that's nice." He came down, just tiptoed downstairs, and we're like, "Oh, what a nice little chap." And then all of a sudden, you hear this like, "Wah," and the whole place is shaking. And I was having a conversation with my parents, and all of a sudden, we became a silent film. I have no idea what they were saying to me, and I couldn't even hear myself. And even like the teacups were like shaking on the walls, and we're like, what is going on down there? And then it finishes, and then you just hear this tiptoe, and the same guy came up and said, "Well, that was wonderful. Have a good day." And we just kind of looked at him like the gremlin, the little cute gremlin, and then the big scary gremlin. And we're like, is this the same person? So I share this weird story that is true. It reminds me especially of those moments in which we have a lot of noise around us and we don't even realize it. And we might be wondering, why is it that I can't really hear what's in my heart? Why can't I hear God speak to me? Maybe the Lord's saying, well, maybe you have a screamo band that's playing in your head, and you got to kick them out so then you can actually hear me. This is what the whole mystery of the 40 days in the desert is all about. Lent, if you take out the Sundays, comes to 40 days. And so Jesus goes into the desert like Israel did for 40 years. And in the desert, your comforts are taken away. Even the very atmosphere is so thin that it either gets really hot because of the sun in the morning, or it gets very cold at night. And you're, in a sense, alone with yourself. That's what the Lord wants. He wants us to go there. That's in the scriptures. He talks about the way that I'm going to bring you from slavery to Egypt, this is the first reading, to the promised land of milk and honey, is not to just transport you there instantly, but you're going to have to go through the desert, the wilderness, in order to come out on the other side different. This process. Very much like if anyone here has ever been to the gym before. Our world is not home. It's a gym. And a gym can be difficult. A gym can be frustrating. A gym can be one of those places where it's like, I don't want to just stay here. This is painful. And yet, that's the place that when we go through that process, we actually become healthier and stronger and freer and all of those things. You know the word for dojo? Do you know what that actually means? Where you learn martial arts and it's kind of the gym for that aspect. It means basically the path or the way to get somewhere. And so Lent is that heightened boot camp, super time to focus in the gym, to become freer and stronger. in our relationship with the Lord, to, in a sense, go through Lent and come out looking more like Jesus Christ on the other side. That's what Lent is about. And particularly today, when we hear about the temptations of Jesus in the desert, he goes out there, he's fasting, he's experiencing hunger, and in a sense, he's pulling away all of the comforts that distract us to really get to the heart of things. And notice the three different kinds of temptations that come forth that Jesus doesn't fall into, but he willingly charges into those temptations to give us strength to be able to meet those temptations and to receive strength from the Lord to overcome them. And we have the three temptations. One is Jesus is hungry. I mean, it's a no-brainer. He's out there for 40 days. He hasn't eaten anything. Of course he's going to be hungry. But Satan says, use your power. Take the stone, make it bread. Take away the hunger. Jesus responds saying, one does not live on bread alone. What he's showing us in the midst of this is one of the temptations of the enemy is to distract us and, in a sense, meet a surface-level hunger so then we never actually deal with the deeper hunger of the heart. We, in a sense, meet as like a Band-Aid on the top, and yet there's an ache in our heart that needs to be uncovered for it to be healed. Has anyone here ever struggled with being silent? Do you ever sometimes even feel guilty where it's like, I gotta do something? Sometimes we don't like to be with our thoughts. And we might have that sense of when we get into that uncomfortable place saying, I must need to do something. Maybe our phone is right there and it calls to us. It says, Father Andy. And we just reach to it. And we're like, well, I need to check the Weather Channel. I checked it 5 minutes ago, but you never know if something changed. And we get that dopamine hit the moment we start scrolling. The Lord is showing us, where am I really hungry? This is the first area of temptation. Satan says, take some bread, take some bread, take some bread. Here, have a lollipop, have that, and then you won't be hungry. But I remember once when I worked in an inner city ministry in Washington, D.C., and I remember being there at 11 o'clock at night, and I remember seeing these little children that would be on the streets, and they would be crying for hunger, but in their hands they had a Mountain Dew and they had a Snickers bar. And yet they were so hungry because they were just putting that sugar stuff on the top. And yet there was something deep in there that they were hungering for. That's us. And the Lord this Lent wants us to really look at that and say, what's really going on in my heart? Where am I uncomfortable? Where do I reach for something? Where do I reach for the bread, the quick bread, to just cover over that ache? Because as long as it's covered over, it can never be discovered or healed. Now, the second temptation here is once that is uncovered and we realize that there's a hungering for something more, then the temptation becomes this. I'll give you all the kingdoms of the world. You just have to worship me first, and I'll just give it to you all quickly. This is the temptation of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. That sense of, will God satisfy and meet my heart's desire? The enemy says, you can't fully trust him. After all, he's withheld this one tree, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, where you could become like him. He's holding out on you, and so you have to take things into your own hands. You have to grab the fruit because maybe it'll wither away and your chance is gone. This is what sin, this is the temptation and the allure of sin. I can't trust that God is going to take care of me. I can't wait upon the Lord, especially when I'm feeling this ache and this uncomfortability. I need to grab for that power and that glory myself right now. And yet, the Lord, He's given us a heart that's made for greatness. And so the devil knows that and says, I need to get there before God. And I just say, yeah, your heart was made for greatness. Grab all this stuff and do it without God's help. And that's where we fall. To be able to say, I'm going to do it my way. Instead of that process through the gym, through the dojo, that is painful, that's difficult, that is very uncomfortable to walk through the desert. And yet that's going to be the way in which we let go of our idols and receive Jesus and cling to Him alone, worship God alone. And it's in Jesus that we become great. Because in Jesus, we are caught up into the very heart of the Trinity. And our heart beats in union with the heart of God. That's what our heart is made for. Now, the third temptation is once we, in a sense, realize there's an ache in our heart, so once we get past that one, and then we realize that our heart is made for greatness, and the temptation is grab it before it goes away. The last one is prove it, God, but prove it on my terms. This is the one in which Satan says to Jesus, throw yourself off the temple, because it says in the Bible that your father's going to catch you. He's trying to manipulate Jesus to use his own power to do it on his terms instead of being obedient to the will of the Father. For us, maybe we've discovered that sense of, yes, my heart is made for something more, for greatness. But then we say, Lord, I want it on my terms. Give me the mathematical certainty that I need. And yet the Lord doesn't work that way. If we're in a sense looking for that proof, when all of creation is proclaiming the greatness of the Lord, we're actually going to be blind to miss His call and the realization that He's actually taken the first step. He's actually extended His heart to us. But He doesn't want robots to follow Him with mathematical certainty. He wants lovers to fall in love with Him. Think about even that word, falling in love. You're taking a leap. You're taking a relational leap of saying, I am going to lean into this relationship. And I find the truth of it when I lean in trust. Because if you're looking, especially let's say in a relationship, if you're looking for mathematical certainty, that is a very weird way of finding out whether someone loves you. Imagine someone coming to you saying, well, I've studied my brain, and I've looked at these particular chemicals, they're arranged in this particular way, and so mathematically speaking, I love you. Would that be a good Valentine's gift to your beloved? They'd probably slap you and be like, what are you talking about? This is something deeper and more sure than merely molecules bouncing around in our brain. There's this mystery. But when you look at those that you love deeply, you can say, I know that they love me because I'm in relationship. And I know them and they know me. And that's what the Lord is wanting in our lives. He's saying, trust me. I've made your heart for greatness. I've put that very ache in your heart, that uncomfortability, because I've made you for something beyond this world. C.S. Lewis would say it this way: fish never complain about being in water. Have you ever met a fish that says, excuse me, I don't like being in this water. Please, remove me now. No, that's right. They're not going to do that. Because fish are made for the water. So of course they're going to be comfortable in it. But what about us with time? We're living in the environment of time, but does anyone here ever feel uncomfortable with time? Do you ever want to make things stop? Do you ever look at your children and say, please, stay your little selves? And you blink, and all of a sudden they're taller than you. Do you ever have those powerful family vacations where it's like you don't want this to end? It's the last night, this beautiful sunset. You're sitting there with those that you love, and there's this sadness because you know that it's going to end. We're not comfortable with time because we weren't made for time. We're actually made for eternity. And so your heart, if you allow the screamo band to get kicked out, if you allow yourself to walk into the desert with the Lord and use these times of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving to just pull away all of the insulation, you'll realize that you have an ache in your heart for the eternal. And the only one that can truly satisfy that deepest longing is not going to be the quick fix bread, but it's actually the supersubstantial bread, the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord that wants to come right next to your heart and beat his truth as a heartbeat next to yours. Allow Jesus to fulfill that deep area in your heart. He's the only one that can do it.